One of the most devastating effects of trauma is the crisis of meaning it precipitates. Traumatized individuals often feel disconnected from their sense of identity, from others, and from life itself. Trauma creates an existential void, pushing individuals into what some theorists described as a liminal space, a threshold between worlds where the old structures of meaning are destroyed and new ones are not yet in place. In this space, individuals may feel lost, isolated, and devoid of purpose. Healing in this context requires the restoration or creation of new meaning. For many trauma survivors, the ability to transcend trauma depends on their capacity to reframe their suffering and integrate it into a broader understanding of their own life. This reframing process allows them to see the traumatic experience not as an end, but as a stage in their journey toward a more profound understanding of themselves and the world. As Viktor Frankl emphasized in his concept of the will to meaning, those who can find purpose in their suffering are often able to transcend it, discovering a sense of personal growth and renewal. Spirituality plays a vital role in the healing process for many trauma survivors. Trauma often leaves individuals feeling as if their soul has been shattered or lost, leading to a profound spiritual crisis. This is especially true in cases of extreme trauma, such as torture, war, or sexual violence. The experience of trauma can be likened to a descent into the underworld, where one is stripped of identity and thrust into a space of profound suffering and isolation. Yet this descent also holds the potential for spiritual awakening and renewal. Jungian psychology, which emphasizes the spiritual dimension of human experience, views trauma as an opportunity for spiritual transformation. Jung's concept of the transcendent function refers to the psyche's ability to integrate opposites and transform suffering into meaning. This process involves a dialogue between the conscious and unconscious parts of the self, leading to a higher state of consciousness. Jung's ideas highlight how trauma can catalyze a profound reorganization of the psyche, enabling individuals to transcend their suffering and emerge with a more integrated sense of self. The archetype of the wounded healer is particularly relevant here. In many spiritual traditions, those who have suffered deep wounds are believed to have unique healing capacities. Their own wounds give them a profound understanding of suffering, which they can then use to help others. This archetype is often seen in trauma healers who, through their own experiences of trauma, are able to guide others through the healing process. The process of healing others also facilitates their own healing and growth. Now, while spiritual transformation is a significant aspect of healing, the role of therapy and supportive relationships cannot be overstated. Trauma therapy provides a structured space where individuals can begin to process their experiences, reconnect with lost parts of themselves, and find a path towards wholeness. A key component of therapy is the restoration of trust, both in oneself and in others. Now, trauma often results in a profound betrayal of trust, leaving individuals isolated and disconnected. Therapy aims to rebuild this trust through a safe, supportive therapeutic relationship. Grief work is another essential element of the healing process. Trauma survivors must often grieve the losses associated with their trauma: loss of identity, loss of safety, and loss of connection. Grieving allows individuals to acknowledge their pain and begin the process of integrating it into their broader life narrative. In many cases, this process is facilitated by rituals of purification and testimony, which serve as catalysts for emotional and spiritual healing. Healing also occurs within the context of community. Trauma often isolates individuals, making them feel disconnected from others and from society. Reconnecting with a supportive community helps trauma survivors regain a sense of belonging and shared humanity. Judith Herman, a leading expert on trauma, emphasizes the importance of community in the healing process, noting that trauma is ultimately healed through the restoration of relationships. In some cases, trauma survivors transform their pain into a mission, dedicating themselves to helping others and creating a more humane society. But not all individuals are able to transcend their trauma. The concept of transcendence competence refers to an individual's ability to remain open and engaged during times of extreme existential crisis. This competence allows individuals to transform trauma into a catalyst for personal growth and renewal. Research suggests that transcendence competence can be developed and strengthened, offering hope to those who feel overwhelmed by their trauma. Enantiodromia, a concept introduced by Jung, refers to the healing swing toward the opposite pole after being torn apart by trauma. This catastrophic reorganization of the personality often occurs when individuals feel that they are at the end of their rope, leading to a breakthrough or spiritual awakening. Enantiodromia can be triggered by extreme stress, paradoxical situations, or spiritual practices that challenge the ego, such as Zen koans. In these moments, the trauma archetype, which lies behind trauma complexes and altered states of consciousness, opens up to the possibility for spiritual transformation and healing. The process of healing and transcendence after trauma is not linear, and it does not always result in a complete restoration of the pre-trauma state. Instead, healing often involves the creation of a new self, one that is more resilient, more compassionate, and more deeply connected to the spiritual dimensions of existence. This new self emerges through the integration of the traumatic experience into the broader life narrative, allowing individuals to find meaning in their suffering and to transform it into a source of strength.